Hi.
Hi. Welcome to the Knitting a Good Yarn podcast. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Carmen.
And I believe this is our official episode 1.
Yes.
So
it is. We have talked a bit about some things we have some episodes coming up that we weren't sure if they were real episodes as well. So then we were laughing, and if we don't start this at episode 1, we're never going to get there.
we're never going to start.
Although, can I say, I love all people's comments. Like, there was many comments about the fact that we may never get to episode 1, which would have been, we did toy with the idea of just always being in decimals, just forever. Episode 0.78. and then we could assess, like, as we did the thing, like, add a little bit more. This one's maybe a 0.5 extra. This could be only 0.3. We didn't cover very much, maybe a 0.15.
We entertained it, and then it got really complicated, and so we decided episode 1 because really this is the first time we've been together in since the very, very first prequel episode. So welcome. If this is your first time here, we have 2 episodes that we recorded previously titled episode 0.5 and 0.75, which were really to introduce the Inspired by Ellen KAL, which starts in 10 days.
I can't even believe it. Feels crazy.
And if you have been following since then and you decided to come back, we're together, we're in person, and we have so many things.
We have so many things, we're not even showing them all, which is again why we were going to be like extra episodes to just catch up. But no, it's just going to be whatever we end up with.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of different, hopefully our plan is to show you a lot of different things and to also talk about the Inspired by Ellen Knit Along, which starts on September 1st. And we're going to try and do all of that at the end of the episode. So if you're here because you're interested in that, we'll probably end up talking about it through the episode, but we'll go over all of the details about that Knit Along at the end for our organizational and your viewing pleasure. So if you haven't gotten yourself like a beverage, maybe like a snack
and some knitting
and get really comfortable, it's your invitation to do so because we might be here for a while.
Well, I love that you say that because I'm like, again, it's not going to take that long to go through these whips or not whip. Well, yeah, I guess we have a couple whips and some things that we've finished in the last few weeks, but I think given our last 2 episodes started the same way, it's just going to be quick, and it ended up being like an hour and a half or 2 hours. I think she's probably right.
So if you haven't figured out, this is a knitting podcast, and it's really actually an exploration of not just like knitting and what we're knitting and what we're planning on knitting and what we love knitting, but really it's like what the craft of knitting invites us into.
Yeah.
And all of the things that we've encountered through knitting, through this podcast. We're hoping to kind of keep sharing that with you as best as we can.
Absolutely. And it already, even just two podcasts in, we've already met amazing people because of this. And like, it has been incredible. It's just been incredible, the community that's already started and already was there before, and now we're just adding this extra piece to it. It feels like some big quilt that we're all just contributing to in different ways. And yeah, it's been really awesome.
So welcome, however you got here, welcome to our little community and our little knitting of a good yarn.
Yes, beautiful. And before, I know that you will be ready because Jackie always has a plan. And so as I'm looking here, I'm noticing my dog right there. And our first podcast, maybe everybody noticed, but only a few people commented that my dog was sitting beside me the whole time. I didn't even notice because he's my shadow and he's always like right there. But right at the end, I guess I grabbed something and he like pops his head up and he's all grumpy. He's like, so anyway, I did want to introduce him. I won't wake him up, I guess. His name is Frisco. Frisk, you want to look over here? He's a Chihuahua Terrier. He's 12 years old. And we rescued him 4 years ago, and he came into our lives and has changed everything for the better. He's just the best dog ever. So did want to introduce him. He's having a nice scratch there. So there, not knitting related, but he's probably, anytime we're filming here, then he'll likely be in the scene.
This is not a pillow.
It's not a pillow. Yes, most people thought that. That's right. Most people thought it was a furry pillow, which makes sense because it was just a bit of fur and then he moved.
He's part of our little knitting community also, isn't he?
Oh, he is.
Yeah. So, what are you wearing, Carmen?
I am wearing one of my recently finished objects. This is the Demi Loon top, not tank. Demi Loon tank top.
We have show notes. Everything we talk about exists down below in the description box as show notes on our Ravelry, and we'll talk about where you can follow along and find us.
Yes.
Again at the end.
Yes.
Otherwise, we'll never get into the knitting.
No, agreed. Yeah. And I'll never get it right. But Demi Loon top by Sachiko Bergen, who's a Canadian designer. And this I knit in a Canadian yarn, and actually it was designed with this yarn. It's by Cara Yarns, Rosemary from Akara Yarns, and it's actually a linen silk yarn. I can't remember the actual components of like how much of each. It might have been 50-50, and it's super, super soft. I mean, Jackie,
I just want to pet it. I'm like, is it appropriate for me to pet your knits? Like,
always.
It's so delicious.
It's lovely, and yeah, so and it has a beautiful drape to it. I don't know if you can kind of see that.
I like that high-low hem.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's just got like a beautiful silhouette.
Yeah, and it's just a lovely knit. You can make it in 2 days maybe. It takes about, I haven't weighed it yet, but I think it'll take, I had 2 skeins of it. So it's a fingering yarn held double, and I had 2 skeins of it, and I think I have about half of each left. So it might have gone over the 100. You might need, I know that she calls for 2 skeins, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so it would be great if it was, actually, I feel like Jackie's doing the math, and it would be really great if it's just about that, because I'll give you the other half, of course.
That is not what I was thinking about.
I
was thinking like, okay, 2 skeins of fingering, half of each, that equals 1 skein of fingering, right?
And I have 2.
And
I have a friend who has tried this on, and it looks amazing.
It's so good.
It is. It's beautiful, easy knit, garter, so you knit it flat, so it's just garter stitch, you know? So you're just doing the short rows, and because of the garter stitch, it is wrap and turn, but you don't actually resolve, you just kind of knit through the wrap and turn. So you don't actually have to pull up the little pieces like you do in regular wrap and turn, you know, like
a German short row?
Well, yeah, so it's a wrap and turn that's resolved like a German short row.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's easy.
I mean, I think
I've made 2 of these already.
For me, I really appreciate, I love simple things. Simple, neutral things. And what I really appreciate this
hot red
is some neutral things. I'm looking at your FO pile, and there are neutral things, but I really appreciate just how there are these like little details. Like, I love this neckline. I love the Demi Loon, and I'm really, this is gonna be something that I knit. Although I'm really tempted actually to knit it in a more rustic yarn, so rather than like a summerish yarn, as something to wear with cardigans, as like a layering piece.
That would be very nice. Yeah, and it's a little crochet chain. I don't know how to crochet, but I was able to do it.
Cool. I thought it was I-cord, but
yeah, no, it's just crochet. It was so simple. It was just, and wonderfully explained pattern. Like, Sachiko's awesome, both her and her sister. Amazing. I think they're having some kind of a KAL right now too for their Moon and Pearl book.
Moon and Turtle?
Moon and Turtle.
Yeah.
So what would I do without Jackie? At least I got the moon part. And I don't actually know if they're having something with that book. So maybe you can knit this and be part of it. I don't know.
Yeah. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. It's awesome. And yeah, so I was saying, I think on my Instagram post, I realized that it was a fully Canadian production.
Yeah.
Because it was a Canadian designer with Canadian wool, or I guess yarn, and a Canadian test knitter.
There you go. Triple
threat.
Yeah.
So yes, beautiful summer, spring top, and you could wear it underneath, as you're saying, you could wear it, even this could be worn underneath cardigans. It's a really nice silhouette at the top. Yeah, so highly recommend it.
And you know it's a good knit when you knit it twice.
Yes, yes, I did knit it. Oh, I can hold it up. I originally knit it in a full linen. This was her original design, and actually it had, now this is stretched quite a bit because it's regular linen. As you can see, yeah. The silk really, I think, helps. This, yeah, it hasn't stretched quite as much. And it had really big armholes. Wasn't meant to, but because of the stretching and stuff, it was bigger. So then she changed the pattern up, so now they're much smaller armholes. But I think in the pattern you get both options.
Because this is a look, right?
Yeah.
Like as I think about this, I think about like a beautiful lace bralette or something like that. Yes. That's like a look that that is going to work for some people in their bodies. And isn't that the joy of knitting? Is finding a fit and a silhouette and a look that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So.
And I think one of my friends was like, it would be a great over like a bathing suit. It was like a cover up kind of thing. So yeah.
And linen will do do that, right? Like you're not having to worry about
water
and that kind of stuff with like a rest of the wool that might felt.
That's right.
I think.
So
yeah.
2 times.
There you go.
Took less than a week to do both. Great. Like these things.
Amazing.
And I just tried this on and didn't want to take it off. It's incredible.
So this is the Bright Sweater by Junko Okamoto. It's knit in, surprise, surprise, Nutiden yarn. The colorway is Vilgot, and this I knit on a US 3 needle. So when I say that it was a labor of love, it was a labor of love for my hands.
Oh. Is that, sorry, that's 3.25?
I don't know, it's small.
3.5 I think is a 4. Yeah, it's small.
Yeah, it was small. It was small, and it was in double strands, but
and that was a very friable, I think, colorway too. So
yes, it was one that was just had a tendency to kind of pull away. But you ever had the experience when you knit or when you see a pattern that you like see a pattern, you fall in love with a pattern, and then you're like, I must knit this in like a particular color? That was actually, it was backwards for me with this one, which is that this beautiful sort of pink that somehow manages to be cool and warm at the same time.
It's gorgeous.
Oh. The moment I saw this yarn, I remembered there's a shawl that I previously knit called the Yohira Shawl that used this sort of wrap stitch motif. And the moment that I saw this in the plate, I was like, I have to wrap stitch it.
Interesting.
And so it kind of like lived in my mind that I knew I was likely going to be holding it double, and I thought that it would look so beautiful in a wrap stitch because then you could kind of see its warmness and its coolness. And also, I don't know what it looks like to you, it reminds me of rosebuds.
That's what when I put it on and then I was looking at it down the side, it looks like flowers.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
So I put this on today because this is also a bit of a community knit in the sense that I knit this last June, I think it was last June, as part of Junko in June, which is a little bit of sort of like a yearly tradition through the Caddy Jacks community. And June is my birthday month and I love roses, and I just thought like, now is the time for me to cast this double-stranded, basically not summer knit. To me, this is summer in some kind of convoluted way. And so, yeah. So I love this knit. If you're thinking about knitting it, here's what some very kind person, as I was participating in Junko in June, told me, which is like, this top part with the cables, it's a little challenging. It's a little challenging because you're doing cables, and I did this without a cable needle where, oh no, knitting words are escaping me, where basically it's like there are a lot of stitches. I don't know, it's like 4 and 4 or 5 and 5, I don't know, and when you're trying to like cross them because cables.
Yes.
This is
And you
my
have to hold
demonstration.
them.
And you have to hold them. And
Yes.
I was just like, I may never
That's a lot.
get through this.
That's a lot.
But once I got through it, it was the most joyous knit. Like, this is a cure to Sleeve Island.
Really? It looks like that would be like...
It was so fun to do.
Oh.
It was so fun and it was so satisfying. And also what I liked about it was that it's like this completely strange silhouette.
Yes.
Or not strange, but just unconventional. Because in a way, you are knitting it. There's like a saddle shoulder aspect to it.
Yes.
And then because Junko is a genius, there's this like ribbing that somehow allows the sweater to sit just like perfectly.
Yes.
Creating this really beautiful line. And then there is a little bit of what I'm gonna say raglan-esque shaping that happens.
Wow.
And then also on the theme of high-low,
Oh, yes.
it's a little bit of a high-low hem. So
Wonderful. So it's like a round, it's almost like a round yoke, and then to a saddle, to a raglan.
So I will say that this, I didn't take notes on this. This was like in my pre-Ravelry. I know, right? So this is in my pre-Ravelry days before I had any knitting friends. And so I was just like, figure it out. So what I will say about this pattern and the use of Nutiden yarn is that this is maybe one of the warmest things that I own. I wear it in not the depths of summer. It's like August, 21st. It's pretty humid out. So this is gonna come off shortly.
Yeah, probably during the podcast.
Yes. So it creates a fabric that's really, really dense and like windproof. So you know how with some woolens, the experience is that it's warm, but part of what is amazing about woolens or temperature regulation is like the ability for air to move through it. Like this is essentially armor. And I kind of love that sort of symbolism because I think when I look at it and I think about like the pink and all these like really beautiful details, I don't associate that with sort of like strength.
Yes.
And so to me that is a really beautiful juxtaposition, and every single time I wear it I think to myself, this is like a piece that is both soft and strong at the same time.
I love it. I love it. And actually, while you're talking, even though this was not what I thought when I first saw it, but even this part into this yoke, when you're talking about armor, it makes me think of knights. They used to have that, didn't they? Like have like a plate where the metal would be all over here into there or something. So.
And what I actually love about it is like, I'm a shawl wearer. I like that sort of cocoon, cozy feeling. And so this really, you get that with this like cozy hug. And so when I wear it, it's, you know, roses in June in the most perfect pinky neutral. I'm thinking about the other folks who were knitting this along with me at the time, and how much strength we sort of derive from our knitting and our community. And so it felt apropos to wear this. I knit it really off gauge, It's knit top down, and I just kind of followed the pattern, knit the sleeves, and then when I got here I did some like major fudging because I was like, okay, like what is this gonna look like? And we'll come back to why top down is my favorite construction later.
Although, well, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But I will say, this is a problem then, Jackie, because I want to make this exact sweater. So you're going to have to somehow remember what it was, what you did. I even have Vilgot in stash. I haven't knit with it yet. I just want to make this one.
Yeah. I mean, beautiful. I think, you know, one of the things, if you read the Ravelry comments about this pattern that they talk about, is like this sort of fusion construction and like the ribbing that's here. It really helps with fit. And what I'll say is like the modifications that I made basically in the pattern, there's sort of increasing that happens, and I knew sort of top being able to try it on top down, that I was like, I don't think that I want to keep increasing.
So it could be even wider, actually. That's what it would have been. Wow.
Yeah, and so one thing that I think is important to say about Junko Komodo designs is that they're like one size fits all. And so there's a little bit of a leap of faith, I think, that you take when there's a schematic, you can look at it, but there's a little bit of this like leap of faith in terms of saying like, I don't actually know how this is going to come out. The construction is so unconventional that you can't like hold up your favorite raglan sweater and sort of do that. So I probably would have never knit this if there weren't people knitting it along with me, if I wasn't sort of like being inspired by other people who were doing the knit, that I was like, I don't think I actually ever reached out to anybody to be like, help. Right. But it's just the knowing that I could have reached out to somebody and I wasn't like tackling this all on my own, that just kept going. And you know, the thing that I think happens in knit-alongs and in shared knitting experiences is like, you see that somebody has done something and you're like, oh yes, oh, I'm really interested about that and I want to get there and I also want to, you know, and so that's the right sweater.
That'll happen with our Inspired by Elle and KAL too, I'm sure. Well, it's gorgeous. Thank you for wearing that, because wow, I have wanted to wear the bright or make the bright sweater for a long time too, but it's daunting. But speaking what you're like, I was kind of going from what you were just talking about, like I think one other thing is seeing other people knit it. It's like, you know, it's possible, and you can, if you have a friend who's actually local, you can try it on and then you're like, okay, this is worth it. You know, it's might be a bit of a beast to get through, but it'll be worth it in the end. So
yeah, so I mean, I will do my best to create a Ravelry thing about it so that you know, some of the details that I can remember are here, but hopefully I've been able to share enough here that people are gonna feel confident enough to kind of say like, I'm gonna swatch with my yarn. I'm gonna swatch like, no, I'm not. I'm gonna swatch with my yarn and just kind of see how I feel about the fabric, because I do, like, in my endless dream knitting queue, I do think that I want to knit this again in something that is a little bit closer to what the sample was knit in.
Yeah, was it
mohair in my eye?
I can't remember.
It's fingering.
No,
it was like It's either fingering or sport. Yes. It is a beautiful rustic wool that I don't think is being produced anymore. But it's a fingering, rustic, really drapey version. And if you go on Ravelry and look at the different projects, you can see that there are ones that are sort of lighter and drapier. And I would love to have a version of that. So. Maybe that's the next knit along.
You just keep talking, but I just have another thing to say. When I put this on, it's so funny when you said it was very like strong, because it's still, because it's Nutiden, it still feels super light and like, I didn't feel like I was being like totally like closed in by it. It felt really nice. So to have it even be lighter would be even more amazing. So awesome,
amazing.
Yeah.
What else have you been knitting up this summer?
I knit. So I finished a project that I had started. I could probably look back on my Ravelry, but I'm pretty sure it's been a year and a half. Probably last year sometime, maybe in like January or something. Transcend. I was in the midst, when Jackie came, I was in the midst of frantically looking up my things, writing a list of what I had made for today, and then I didn't get to this because I had only just started it because it was right last minute, as usual. This is the Transcend by Unwind Knitwear. It's Rachel Ilsley. And you know what, I'll talk about it and then I'll put it up closer. It's made in 100% Suri alpaca silk. It's like just over 2 skeins of Suri alpaca.
And you knit probably one of the smaller sizes, right?
I think I knit 2 or 3. I think something like that.
Check Ravelry.
I did update that one. But it's all just a lace pattern, basically, that you go through. I wonder if I can I'll throw it on. It might not look, you know, with the red under, well, maybe the red underneath will be good. Maybe we'll be able to see it better. Ooh, it's just, Oh, that does.
I like that.
Yeah, me
combo.
too. It's just one of these sweaters. So I should say, started it last year, got to just into the bottom ribbing. Like, I know, like top down, did all this, loved it. It was a beautifully engaging knit. You're doing the lace. It's not a hard lace pattern. Like, you get it pretty quickly, and it changes up. It's not just the same one. It kind of has some different, like sometimes you're making it down like this, sometimes you're doing a bit of an arrow, but super, super fun. And then I got distracted. I did. And then I got distracted again and again and again. And like, it just sat there, and it was one of those knits where I'm like, I'm not frogging this. I love it. I want it. And in fact, this one I actually got this was the original Suri that was used in the pattern, and it was by Hypothesis Yarns, she's a dyer out east, I think, Nova Scotia.
Who's no longer dying anymore, but we love, and we're so grateful for all the beautiful things that she made when she was dying. But
yeah, maybe eventually, who knows? I don't know if it was a full out just a break or
as it stands right now in my conversation with her, because actually I have a piece here that a finished object, well, an old finished object that maybe I'll show in a second, that is also Suri Alpaca by her. But
oh my god, like it's just, and if you knit, I mean, you've probably knit, I'm guessing, with Suri Alpaca the silk combo, right? I know a lot of people have, and a lot of podcasters talk about it. If you haven't done it, and you just doing it, I think it was a little bit, at first I thought, oh my god, just like one strand of,
this is single-stranded?
It's single-stranded.
Of course it's single-stranded,
yeah.
I'm like, duh, but oh, it's so beautiful.
I thought it would take me forever or something, I don't know, like because it's so thin, it's like a lace weight, obviously, and so, but funny, lace weight for lace, haha, weird, but I don't know, I think I was kind of hesitant to do it, but then I saw this pattern and I loved it so much. I actually almost did the test knit for this pattern, and somehow I think I had a few at the time and didn't do it. I said no, and then, or I don't know if I said, I just didn't apply, and then I regretted it. Like I was like, yeah, I really regretted that test knit. I wanted, all the beauties were coming out and I wanted it so badly. So then I cast it on when it first came out. So whenever that was, that's when I cast it on, and then I finished it. I had just finished the Fields of Gold sweater before I left for England, and I needed some knitting on the plane, and I knew I was gonna cast on this, which I thought I could possibly do on the plane, but I don't know why. I think I wanted to wait on that somehow. And I saw this and I was like, oh my god, I just have to do the ribbing. That's easy.
All that was left was the ribbing?
No, well, no. So the ribbing and then the sleeves.
I was like, next time you have a beautiful object that's just sitting as a whip and all that needs to happen is the ribbing, you're just gonna bring it over to me and I will finish your ribbing, because I find ribbing meditative. But
do you? Oh, actually, that's good to know, because I hate ribbing. I hate it, but yeah. But it was a good place, I will say. It was a really good place to stop, because I have another pair of socks that's in what's that, Feather and Fan, I think? Lace pattern. And I remember it was right at the beginning of my knitting, and I didn't really understand the pattern to begin with, and I left it halfway, and maybe now I could figure out where it is, but I never went back to it because I was like, I have no idea which part of the pattern I'm in. And I think I would have been the same here, and it might have helped me or like stopped me from trying, but I knew I was just at the ribbing. I know that, just keep going. I think it's a twisted rib, like half twisted rib. Anyway, so I did that, and then I was like, now I'm starting the sleeves, because it's a top-down sweater, as you're going to talk more about, and with a drop shoulder here. And I was like, okay, well that's easy. Now I just have to pick up stitches. I can do that, and then I was back into the pattern. So it's a beautiful. So I finished it in England, and then it's just one of those perfect sweaters that when you're just a little cold, like in a summer, like you're wearing a tank top or you're wearing something, and then you're like, I just want a little something to warm up a little bit, and this is the perfect sweater. And actually, so my sister came to visit us, and as soon as I had finished this, I just blocked it, and I think I was just wearing it or no, I had just worn it and then it was lying down and she walks in and she goes, "What's this?" And then she puts it on and it looked amazing on her and I almost gave it to her. I know.
And you weren't sure about, I think when we talked about it, you weren't sure about the drop shoulder.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. You know, especially we've talked about kind of silhouettes that we think look good, or not look good, but like we feel like comfortable with. And I think I have like broader shoulders, I think, than a lot of people. And so for me, like a round yoke and a drop shoulder, I find in a lot of times it doesn't really work so well. It doesn't maybe fit the best for me. Whereas like a raglan will kind of almost like go around my shoulders, or a saddle shoulder will come over it, and that fits a lot better. But
How do
this
you
one
feel
I love.
now?
Well, I know, I have to say, I guess there are no absolutes in this world. I'm like, this one is so, but I mean, it's so drapey that one other thing I often have is like these kinds of sleeves in some other sweaters. If it's a much stiffer fabric, I find it doesn't work very well for me.
Like, it's like you don't love the
dolman kind of
this extra fabric here that you're talking about. But
I don't know if it's because I'm like big person. Feels like a lot. I don't know for me, but this one works maybe because it's just so airy, or maybe I actually like these sleeves and don't even know it.
yeah, well, I mean, I feel like this is one of those moments where we have a bit of a role reversal, because I tend to like think everything through in my head, and then Carmen encourages me to just like do the thing, and then I do it, and I'm like, oh, what the thing that I thought is completely like just didn't end up happening in reality, and so I love that you embrace this, because when Carmen finished it and you had messaged me and you're like, I don't know about the silhouette, and for me, I who love dolman sleeves, sort of this kind of style was just like, it's so good, and I felt it looked really good on you. But what actually matters is how you feel in the knit, right? Like there are things that that like beauty and joy and that sense of that what you are wearing and making is a reflection of you. It's really personal, right? Because there's the external experience and then there's the internal experience, and I think knitting is one of those opportunities where you get to put your internal experience first.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And say like, I don't like drop shoulder sweaters, so I'm never gonna knit a drop shoulder sweater, and that's like the whole point.
Yeah.
But also, if you have the support of like community or like a knitting bestie, then there is an opportunity to have that reflection so that you can see things differently, or see yourself, or see the world a little bit differently, because you get to see through the eyes of somebody who maybe doesn't have the same stuff that you have.
Well, I was gonna say, and I think that, you know, we see ourselves certain ways, right? And I think that in general, humans are probably most critical about themselves, you know, than anyone else, right? So, you know, the things that maybe I think don't look as good, you know, I find it very helpful to hear somebody else, you know, somebody that I trust, who I know Jackie would tell me if it was not,
I would,
you know, which is what you need, right? Like, that one, let's just, you know, you'd probably be like, oh, but those raglans look amazing, you know, and like, but a way to tell me. So it's, I think that was really helpful. And it's so funny because I totally forgot about how I was like, I don't know. And then we had that whole conversation, and now I do love it. So yeah, I think it's great.
I also just, we've gotten a few comments / messages that are like, does Jackie only knit with Nutiden? And the answer is I venture out once a year. So I have a finished object, which is a venture out. But I did actually just want to say that if there was something that I, like, let's say I found myself on a desert island and you know, in my packing I didn't bring Nutiden yarn, and I came across Suri alpaca, I could knit with Suri.
How flexible of you.
Desert island with no Nutiden available.
There you go, Suri. You're second best, but you're second best to Nutiden, which is pretty good.
But I think it's a really lovely alternative to mohair, and so a lot of, I think that's sort of the space that it occupies is an alternative to mohair, and I have to say that having knit with mohair and Suri, that I find for me that Suri has a softer feel to it.
I agree.
And oddly, as we're talking, as you sit in this like wonderful summer ensemble,
you're still in yours.
I'm still in. This is the magic of wool. Like, it's actually like fairly warm outside.
Yeah.
But I find that my temperature regulation is better in Suri than it is in mohair.
Yes.
So something to think about, you know, if you're somebody who wants to, mohair like doesn't really work for you, you don't like the feeling of it. I feel like Suri is something worth considering.
Yes. I definitely find mohair itchy. Like I can wear it, and then the more I wear it, the easier it is to wear. But it's itchy, whereas this is no prickle at all.
I call it kitten soft. Like I
just
want to do this.
It is amazing. I want to knit more in Suri.
So I do want to show this. Actually,
yes.
Okay. So proof that Jackie does knit in something other than Nutiden. This is actually Nutiden.
I was just gonna say, but Jackie.
But
94% of this sweater is in Nutiden.
But so this is a heavily modified version of the bouquet sweater. Oh, it's like Junko hour.
I know.
This is also by Junko Okamoto.
Beautiful.
And I worked it with Suri Alpaca by Hypothesis Yarns held double for the motif. And so there are some days in which I feel like I want to be cocooned in something that's like really like kitten soft.
Yes.
And so that's how this sweater came to be, which was that, first of all, I love
Look at
the colors.
Yes.
And
like
you know,
a variegated Suri, like that's brilliant. Well done.
And I just also love Nutiden and thought, you know, why don't I put the two together and see what happens? Yes. And this is one of my favorite just combos in terms of sensory. I kind of like that it's like rustic plus like really cozy soft. Yes. And so for those of you who have fallen down the colorwork rabbit hole with us for the knit along, I brought this sort of as a little offering, like a little piece of inspiration in terms of saying, you know, if I don't want to work with an unspun yarn or a rustic yarn, which you don't have to, right, in this knit along.
Nope.
We'll talk about it. But just to give yourself the opportunity to try like what feels good to you. And the original sweater is like full colorwork front and back. Actually, do you want to put this on?
I was just gonna say you should put it on, but I can.
I
also want to put it on because it looks so good.
I want to show the original and to talk about making patterns work for you. And
just sit here like this.
So the pattern, it looks like this. You guys can see that. But I actually knit a version in the exact yarn that was in the sample, which is Retrozaria Brusca, and it's a beautiful sweater, but I didn't feel like it worked for me because it was just like really busy. It felt really busy, and I was really like conscious when I was wearing it of how busy it was. And then, you know, the inspiration that comes from other knitters, I saw that somebody had basically omitted a bunch of the motif, and so that's what I did.
Isn't that so
I just
pretty?
omitted it and was a little bit creative about sort of like, oh, I'm just gonna pull this chart and plop it there, and
talk about the little. Where's the little?
You have to go the other way.
This way.
There we go.
Whoa, this is the easiest.
You know, and I just like love this little chicken, and I was like, I need to have the chicken, and so I, you know, worked out this placement of what works for me. And Carmen, I'd love to hear, like, how does that feel to you?
Lovely, lovely. And now, I don't I don't know that I'm feeling, because it's on my back, I don't know that I'm feeling the soft Suri as much, just like sitting here, but it's Nutiden, so I'm in a very happy place.
It's like double soft. It's two different sensory sort of things.
It's so gorgeous. I just feel the way this fits is just so beautiful, to have just these little peaks of things, but quite a plain but a beautiful silhouette, I think. Another one that Jackie has knit, and now I need to knit.
And what are you gonna, so I don't know how you guys feel on podcasts about people talking about their dream knitting. I personally love dream knitting. So maybe we'll share a little bit of dream knitting. So Carmen saw this recently and was like, oh my God, I need to have it. But because Chrissy from Hypothesis Yarn is no longer dyeing, we were like, okay, well, what are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do? And what we're gonna do is we're going to find another amazing Canadian dyer. His name is Lindsay. This is Hello Stella Fibres. This is Suri, Alpaca, and Prism.
Look at this.
And so this is going on our needles at some point.
Right? Yes. Soon. We've been waiting because this was a pre-order.
Yeah.
So we've been waiting.
And so I'm really excited to see your version of it. She's not seen this.
Oh my God, it's gonna be amazing. Lindsay's amazing. She does such beautiful work. Oh my God, this is gonna be awesome.
So a little homage to...
Yes, and I would say it's like different, obviously, but has that same, I don't know if we're really picking up all the, do you see all the different colors there? Beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see how that works up, if and when it works up, because we have a lot of stuff we're dream knitting.
We've got a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
I went to the UK. I'm not going to show what I bought in the UK.
Yet. Not in this episode. As
a
it gets
lot.
knit.
The UK has some gorgeous wools and some amazing yarn shops, so I bought a lot. Gonna have a lot of knitting to do.
Yeah.
And not, so I have a lot of new to do too. So that's with the new updates. But there will be, for those who may not, want to knit with Nutiden or whatever, I actually just showed 2 projects that are non-Nutiden. There will be more as well because I've got lots and lots of wool. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Is there anything else you want to show? What else have you made recently that you want to talk about?
Yes, sorry, one more because lots of knitting got done in England. Oh God. You know what's so funny about this? I mean, it's not a massive contrast, but in person you can see the difference, but I find on camera it's hard to see the difference between the bottom and it. Is it? Okay. This is, oh my God, it's like I know these things, and then the color block tee. The color block tee. I've only just been on the Slack group for a couple months.
Color shift tee. Liv, we're
sorry.
Shift? Color shift tee.
Oh God. I saw it every single day. Oh my God, I should have looked these things up. But by one of my favorites, clearly, Liv Ulven from Woodlands Knits. Oh my gosh. So Liv had another testing call, I think, or she maybe just told me about the sweater. It was right as I finished the my Fields of Gold sweater. I was going to England, and this, she had this come out, and I loved it. And it was actually it was meant for 3 strands of mohair. That was the original. And she did in quite bright colors. I think it was like white, and then this really beautiful yellow, and then maybe like it was a blue. I can't remember. And then the white again. Oh, look at this! I remembered that part at least. It was blue.
Oh God. There we go. Sort of. That's the sample.
Yeah, gorgeous. So I was like, that's beautiful. I have some Nutiden because I guess I don't go anywhere without it. And I had brought some different colors.
You won't be caught on a desert island.
I will not be caught on a desert island without Nutiden. I'll knit, and then if I can't there's no update to get another one, I'll just unravel and do it again. But I saw this one, and it's just, Liv just makes really nice tees. She makes really nice everything. But I love, as I just said earlier, I love a little raglan sweater. And this was a a nice little tea, and I'm in England, but it was very hot in England. I went there for sweater weather. It was very hot. England, disappoint me. I actually ended up, there was 10 minutes of rain the entire 6 weeks that we were there, which is just awful. But anyway, I digress. So so I knit this. This is single-stranded Nutiden. So what's meant for 3 strands of mohair, I did single-stranded Nutiden, and it weighs 105 grams. So,
oh my God.
You know, just like a feather, basically. Fast, lovely. And this was something, as I was knitting it, I was thinking to myself, this would be definitely an option for our KAL, to use this pattern. If you wanted to do the motif, you could kind of, to have it easier, because it's a top-down sweater, you could start here and just make it all the same color, and then start maybe at that second stripe, and from there down you could do the motif.
Okay, so for those of you who are like, what the heck are they talking about? They keep mentioning this KAL. Maybe I'll just do a little mini. So we are co-hosting the Inspired by Ellen knit along with Knit My Way Home, which is another amazing Canadian podcast with Loretta and Natalia. And the knit along is beginning September 1st. It's going to go 5 months. And this invitation in the knit along is to knit anything that you want. Anything out of
Coasters,
any wool,
dishcloths,
cotton, mohair,
Anything.
Suri, like
yep, not
Knit
Nutiden necessarily.
anything that you want.
Yeah.
That uses this beautiful motif. Do you want to show your sleeves?
Yes. Oops. That's coming out better than when I was in England.
Yeah. So there's this beautiful motif. It's a free motif that has this, I consider it, like, I call it the herringbone and then the peacock eye.
Mm-hmm.
So it's color work chart, and you can use all of the chart, part of the chart, in whatever knitted object you would like to do. And so that's what Carmen's talking about in terms of using the motif. That's the motif that we're referring to for the knit along.
So basically, now, yes, we've talked in other episodes about, I'm going to be making a bottom up sweater, and it's going to be full color work. And then I'm just going to somehow join it at the top, and it's all going to work out amazing. That's how it's going to work. But I was also thinking, if that doesn't work, or even as a second version, it would be easy. Like, I think the hardest part is this part, right? Like when it's about decreases and getting down, doing your yoke of whatever sort that is. That's where you have to have increases or decreases depending on what direction you're doing. And with a pattern like this, like you want to make sure it stays in its, like, right.
It's a 12 stitch repeat. And so
you lose some parts of it.
Yeah.
When you decrease, like you knit 2 together, it's going to start to go a little wacky. So, and we will say there are some amazing people doing amazing things with totally decreasing this thing. I just saw one on my Instagram. I just posted it, and then I put it on stories. Oh yeah, look it up.
I'll look it up. Yeah.
Unbelievable. But for those mortals like me who are like, what the heck, I'm glad I'm doing this at all and don't have a pattern, you could actually just do a top-down sweater. Like, you could get this pattern and you would just knit these 2 sections. Well, you don't have to change colors here. So you would just I would do this all the same color, whatever it is. And then from this point on, under, I've already split for sleeves. So now you're just knitting in the round. So you could just make sure that this is a multiple of 12 in whatever way. And because this doesn't have any waist shaping, you just go straight down and knit the thing, probably backwards. This is how I would do it. So if I started it there, let's say that's where I started the motif. And it would just go down, and I would end it down here with the peacock.
And so it's kind of the idea of actually, it's like color blocking with the motif, or similar to this, it's kind of like you're popping the motif in where you would like to. And I think that there's a real, at least I get excited about that. I think it really opens things up in terms of you getting to explore your creativity. And we're so excited to see what people are doing together.
Yeah.
Doing with that motif, because the knit along begins September 1st, but I think because we had sort of spoken about it earlier on the podcast, the swatching and the ideas have begun. And so if
Well, Jackie, I already broke our own rule.
so did I, actually.
Yes.
I'm gonna go off screen so that I can, one, I'm dyeing a feet, and two, because I want to show my little piece of it
Wonderful.
as one of my whips. Okay.
And I'm just going to entertain you with nothing, because I don't have a whip. Well, I have whips, but I don't have another finished object.
Actually, okay, I do have one finished object. So proof that Jackie knits in something other than Nutiden yarn.
Look at this. Oh, yes.
Carmen, you've not seen this before,
I
have you?
haven't.
Okay, so this is the Birds of a Feather
Oh, Jackie.
shawl.
Oh my God.
I love it
It's
so much.
so gorgeous.
By Andrew Mowry. This is knit. This is also like a Canadian knit, actually. Funnily enough, we didn't plan this. But I knit this in Shibui. Oh no, I don't remember it's gonna be in my Ravelry and on the show notes. Shibui, but it was a partnership between Shibui and Les Garçons, which is Canadian dyer, designer, and so that's this sort of rose colorway. And then the mohair is Viola yarns, so Emily Foden.
Oh, lovely.
So
Isn't it so nice when you see your little
I know, I
hands
really
under
actually kind
there?
of love this.
This is gorgeous.
So this is also like, it was like a birthday knit for me. I knew I was going to be traveling, and I just wanted to have something that was meditative and something that sort of packed up really small. And I had actually gone into my local yarn store, which is Hand Knit Yarns in Hamilton, Ontario. Beautiful shop, beautiful people. And just in the back corner was this teeny tiny pile of mini mohairs. So Viola is someone who I'm deeply inspired by. Her the way that she dyes colors in this, like, I mean, it's just so gorgeous. I
feel like you have to, how do we
show
it
this?
underneath? Do we have any white maybe?
Oh, yeah,
no,
there we
I don't
go.
know. Does that help? I don't think so.
But just
gorgeous.
these beautiful, beautiful, muted, but really, really dynamic colors.
It's perfect with the other, like the main color contrast, like the other color. It's a perfect match.
And actually there's two colorways in here. So
Oh.
it's like a really subtle fade. Maybe if I did this. There are two colorways in here.
Oh,
There's
yes,
like
that
this
looks a little more
rosier, rosy color,
Okay.
and then I faded
there's
in
more
another one,
green in
a
here.
greeny one.
Yes.
But I just,
That's beautiful.
it was in the back shop, and it was like calling my name, calling my like neutrals. And you know, my knitting process is different from Carmen's in the sense that I was really inspired by Amy Palco, who is a fellow amazing podcaster on The Meaningful Stitch. When she first started her podcast, she talked about how shawls are like portable sacred spaces.
Oh, yeah.
And so meditation is a very, very big part of my life. And there is a particular meditation practice that talks about lying in a pink cloud of the morning dawn.
Okay.
And
You
I was
nailed
like,
that.
hello.
You nailed pink cloud in morning. Yeah, that is this.
And when I saw the mohair again, when I saw the mohair, I was like, this is it. This is the pink, this is the pink cloud of the morning dawn.
It absolutely is.
And so now when I wear it, I feel like I've carried this sublime memory from that particular meditation practice, which I love and I teach, into physicality.
Yes. Oh God. You know, yeah. So I knit with a lot of bold colors at times too, but like this is calling to me. This is gorgeous. Gorgeous.
So, I mean, to your point of like the perfect summer layer. I was recently in Costa Rica, and Costa Rica at this time, it's their rainy season and it's also warm, but it was like 30 plus degrees Celsius, and the humidity was kind of like, it's the jungle. I was in the jungle, and it was like you could see the humidity. You could like part it with your hands. But I was there on a yoga meditation retreat, and so sometimes when you're sitting and you're still for a while, there's just that desire to be like a little bit covered. And so I brought this down along with my Annalise autumn shawl, which was knit, which we showed on a previous podcast, which is Nutiden single stranded, and those were the two things that I sort of brought into class and practice with me. And so now I feel like those two shawls are also like infused with the memory of that. And
Lovely.
my knitting I really consider as like, I feel like our knits are like talismans. You know what I mean?
Yes. I do think you see it that way. You know, I think you talk about that with almost everyone, right? Yeah.
And that sort of process was sort of saying, you know, what's the comfort thing that I need, or what's something that I really want to like remember or capture. My knitting process, my knitting practice is kind of about sort of savoring that and then getting to carry it when I wear it. And so my annual foray out of Nutiden yarn, which I'm quite happy with. I'm sorry, this guy just like smacked him in the face with mohair. Are you okay?
It was mohair. I'm sure he was like, that was delightful. Go right ahead, do it again.
So I did make some modifications because I'm not really good at counting stitches, and at some point I ended up all wackadoodled, and so I added a couple more pattern repeats. But I'm really quite happy with it. I wasn't sure about the shawl shape.
Nothing.
Oh no, I don't actually know.
Okay. Feels like it'd be.
But this, I'll have this on Ravelry. It was less than 2 skeins of the shibui.
Wow, and that was, is that 25 grams or 50?
Don't know.
Role reversal. Look at me even asking her.
I didn't
Soon
prepare.
I'm going to ask her what needle size. No, I can't do that.
I don't know that either.
Oh my God!
But the mohair was less than 50 grams.
Okay.
Because because I wanted to try out fading. I never done it before, but of course I'm not brave enough to go and fade like a bunch of speckled variegated yarns. So this is the Jackie interpretation of fading. She has mohair minis, so they come in like 20 gram things.
So yeah.
And so I bought a number of them and then sort of tried did two. I ended up doing 2. I had plans to do either 3 or 4, and I started to fade in 1 or 2, and I was like, oh, I don't actually, there's too much contrast, and so I ripped it out. And it went really well.
It is.
So
gorgeous, making me want to do this. I've had actually the original wool yarn for Birds of a Feather for years.
Yeah.
Oh, I just haven't done it yet, but now I'm gonna have to. But now I'm gonna want this version.
I mean, I have enough mohair probably that you could do this version.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I also think, you know, for what I was thinking about you as I was figuring out how to sort of drape and wear this, which is that one of the nice things that I'll say about knitting a sort of lighter shawl is, you know, there's this question of like, how do you drape it? How do you wrap it? And I think that working something like this, you can do it in so many different ways, right? Andrew Mowry and her, the designer, has a podcast on it if I want to, and she sort of does like how to wear the shawls kind of thing, but
it always looks amazing.
It always looks amazing.
Like,
I haven't really figured this out.
Like,
but there's so many different ways, and because it's so light, you can even, like, I foresee that in the dead of winter when I'm like crying because there's like nothing alive outside. Like just the depths of the deep dark winter, I could see myself just giving myself a little piece of summer and reminded of a little bit of Costa Rica, and you know, boop.
I love it. It's gorgeous.
So
well done.
I mean, it's a funny thing, this podcasting thing, in which, you know, we were talking about sort of like how you feel about internally, and then the reflection is like, every time we podcast and I'm like staring at the camera, I'm like, wow, I really love that. And I knew I loved it when I felt it, but like I don't spend a lot of time looking at myself in my knits, you know.
Well, we wouldn't.
So,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's not like we just stand in front of mirrors.
We should though.
We should.
Shouldn't we?
We spend enough time on the knits, like the hours it goes into it. We should just stand in front of the mirror and look at them all day.
Yeah.
But
so here we are.
Wow, beautiful. And you were gonna get something before we got distracted.
Oh yeah. So, Carmen, was there anything else that you wanted to show, or anything that is in this giant pile that's next to me that you think wants to come out and be shown on the podcast this
Like as like fully completed objects?
Or a whip?
I think it would be nice to show our whips that we've like both. Okay,
Yes.
You know what? Let me show mine. So I got 2 whips. I'll do my one first. That's not the one that you're doing because I wanted to kind of talk about that really quickly, and then we can do the other one because we're both doing a test knit together.
Yay!
So we'll do that. But I did want to. You told me to have everything close by, and I thought I did, and I don't know where it is. Ah, okay. Okay, I feel like I need to. Oh, there you saw a little bit there. We were on a Zoom call, and the person on the Zoom call is makes beautiful generally muted colors, or like not like this. So I pulled this out, and I think I gave her a heart attack. I brought it up. So I feel like I want to give a little warning. This is bright. Oh my god. Oh my god, look at this craziness. So this is
Wait, can I pause you for a second?
yes.
Okay, so if you were to name this colorway, what would you name it? That's just for something for you to contemplate, because it is like
Before I tell you.
Because to me, you know, sometimes, especially with like beautiful hand-dyed yarns, there is a romanticism around like the naming of the colorway.
Yes.
I feel like when I heard about this, I was like, yes, this is the perfect match.
It really is. Yeah, have we given them enough time?
Well,
I'll tell you, you're gonna have a good, because I'll set it up. When I was in Edinburgh, I had the absolute pleasure of meeting up with Amy Palco from. Oh my God!
Meaningful Stitch.
I was even saying to myself, I know this so well.
You do know.
And then my brain just like. But yes, Amy. I contacted her just like I was like, I just happened to be in Edinburgh. There's some good yarn stores, and Amy's just so wonderful. It was like, why don't I meet up with you? We'll get some tea, and then we'll go to Ginger Twist Studios, which is a pretty local yarn shop to her. So we went in there, and I didn't actually buy this the first time I went with her, because I went to Ginger Twist 3 times, even though I was only in Edinburgh for a total of 5 days over 2 trips. In my 6-week trip to England, I went to Scotland twice, and Glasgow and Edinburgh twice. Glasgow once, Edinburgh twice. Anyway, so, oh my gosh, I feel like there's so much to say. Okay, I'll talk about the yarn and then I'll talk about the pattern. So this is so Jess, who runs Ginger Twist Studios, which is the cutest little yarn store. It is really, really small. Like Amy was like, just so you know, it's a small yarn shop. I'm like, yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, like, good, because I can't have too much yarn because I'm just gonna want to buy it all anyway. And I was going in with the idea that I was gonna get some stuff for me and for Jackie, that we would do some kind of like twin knit, and then also that there was something that I would see that maybe she would like. Anyway, so we go in, and this was one of the colorways that was there that I didn't grab right away, but it just kept going. And Amy was like, oh, that brighter than Barbie colorway. So brighter than Barbie, just the hottest pink. Actually, okay, so I should say, this isn't actually brighter than Barbie. So after all of this, I know it's not actually, it is a one-off that happens every once in a while when they're trying to make brighter than Barbie. And something happens, and there ends up being like a few of these little purple, yeah, you can kind of see it there. Some of the dye, I don't know, it just doesn't mix or something, and you get these little bits of purple. And it's slightly cooler and slightly darker than the original Brighter Than Barbie. So this one's actually called Femme Fatale. And it is 50% superwash merino and 50% silk.
50% silk. It is so delicious. Oh,
And
here.
feel the weight of it, which is so
Can you
funny
see?
because 100 grams is 100 grams, right? But this feels so heavy and drapey. Like it's just gorgeous,
Look at that purple.
right?
Look at it.
And with the cables, it just comes out in these just like tiny little bits. You kind of think it's all pink, but then there's just like little bits of places where the purple comes out. So when I first went, I didn't get the Brighter Than Barbie. I got some other things, can't tell you yet because Jackie doesn't know yet what I got her. Thank goodness I didn't get her this. Although then she was like, that used to be my like spirit color. And I was like, what?
Once upon a time in a
What?
former life.
Amazing.
Ugh.
But I had to go back to Ginger Twist because I had gone to Scotland, then went back to England. We were outside of Cambridge, about half an hour outside of Cambridge. We were down in London visiting my sister, and I wanted to go to a wool store, yarn store down there, and came across. Now I generally actually like more rustic wools. Like, I mean, I have a lot of superwash and things at wools. Yes, but I've kind of moved to more of the rustic. I like the feel of it a little bit more. So I found this store. I was kind of Googling, like, where are some, like, are there any wool shops that specialize in kind of either rustic wools or like, you know, sustainable kind of things, or, you know, ecologically responsible sources. And there's this amazing yarn store, which I hadn't heard of somehow, but it's called Knit with Attitude, and it's in Stokes Newington. And I was like, oh, well, I have to go up there. So we had gone down to like the Science Museum with the kids, and then we all were going back on the train, and we stopped up from Finsbury Park and kind of went off on a bus, and we didn't know where we were going. And my wonderful husband took the kids to Acosta, and they just had like hot chocolates while I spent 45 minutes or so in this amazing yarn store that, if you haven't heard of them, they've been around for, actually now it would be probably 12 years, I guess. And the whole idea was, this person, Maya, I think her name is, she started the wool shop wanting to actually have a shop that was completely specialized in, you know, these kinds of fibers. So like, and one thing that she talks about is, I don't think it's only that the fibers have to be a specific thing like sustainable or whatever, but that there has to be a story. So even if it's, let's say, a superwash wool, if it's made, you know, by women, you know, like a female collective or something, and it gives jobs, like there's some kind of a responsible element to every yarn that they stock, which is just like, I just thought that was so beautiful. And she wanted to show that that was possible, and they've been around for 12 years,
Wow.
you know, through, you know, recessions and everything, and then of course the pandemic and all of this. So when I'm there, I can really talk. I can really make a story a long thing, but when I'm there, they had these samples. I don't know if I think the best part of a wool store is the samples, in my opinion, because you can go and you can try them on, and then you can say, oh my God, right? So it turns out they have a book. Probably everybody's heard of this, but I was like, you have a book that was published by Lina, and it's called Knit with Attitude, 10-year anniversary.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, I should have brought it. It's upstairs. It's gorgeous, gorgeous patterns, and I tried on all of them, and I needed them all. But the one that I tried on, that I was like, one of the ones I really wanted was this pattern. Oh, yes.
I'm gonna.
You know what? Actually, wait. I think that was one of the ones I was prepared for. Let's. This is called the Mpo by Noma Ndlovu. Oh, look at that light. And it's a. Oh, let's see. It's a very cabled sweater with a drop shoulder. If you look at that, it's funny. Ha. See, when I put it on, it was so drapey in a way I've never experienced, really, because you need this combination to get that. Like, wool is amazing, but it will stay together, right? It'll have this kind of like, it comes together. Alpaca tends to be more drapey, but it drapes kind of out. This is this like heavy. The silk and the wool together just makes this heavy kind of piece that kind of sits on your shoulders, almost like you're a hanger or something, and it just hangs. in this beautiful way. I was like, I need the sweater. And it was originally made with Kettle Yarn, which is a lovely dyer yarn company, a lovely dyer out in the UK, but they were out of the, they didn't have enough of the wool for me. So I kept thinking about this for like probably another week or so. I almost ordered from Kettle Yarn thinking, oh my God, well I can just order from her directly, and almost did, and then realized that actually it was her fingering. So this is her Islington base, which is 60%, I think, BFL, Blue Face Luster, and then 40% silk.
And those are both really drapey, right? Like
yes.
the BFL is a fairly drapey fiber.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And then the silk just also brings it, and because the silk is so heavy, it pulls it down, like it makes it kind of, you know, so I was like, I
drape
need
and
this.
structure in the same thing is sort of
Yes,
what
and
I'm hearing.
stitch definition, right? Like, I mean, ugh. So anyway, I couldn't get that, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. And then when I was back up in Edinburgh, I was like, does anybody have anything like this? I'm like, let me just check Ginger Twist. And they did. 50, so theirs is 50% merino, superwash merino, and then 50% silk. So even it's a little heavier even than probably the other one, but I'm just so happy. This is an amazing pattern. It looks nice and complicated, right? Like, you know, it's one of those things that you're like, people are like, oh, you knit that? And you're like, yeah, but it's really not hard. And you know, once you learn how to knit without a cable needle, it's game changing for cables, because you can literally just take this and the pattern is the same. It's over eight rounds. So it's completely memorizable. And you read your knitting really easily. If you haven't seen this trick of every repeat, I think there's 34 stitches, you can put little stitch markers so that you know where you are all the time. You just start over again and you can make sure that you don't lose any stitches. But anyway, this is a lot to say. This pattern's amazing. I can't wait to finish it and wear it and show you. Amazing.
And you know, this knit carries so much. It's gonna carry so much for you.
Yes.
Right? Like,
travel kind of, yes,
right?
Destination knitting or something. Yes. You'll always have that memory.
It's got Jess in it and
Amy
in it.
And actually,
Maya.
Kathleen, who, when I was back in, Jess was in there the first time, but Kathleen was in there the second time we were chatting. And Kathleen and I feel like are kindred spirits, because we were talking about it's hand dyed. So a lot of times people will helical knit. So you would use actually 2 balls and you change each round. And she's like, you know, you could, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing helical. She goes, I don't helical knit either. I'm like, we just fly along. There may be splotches, and whatever happens is what it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of people involved. I mean, all the people that knit with attitude, and yeah, and this designer that I'm like now want to knit all of her patterns because they're so clear and fun, but look really incredible.
I also, you know, so this is an example of why it's helpful to have friends who are just a little bit different from you. Because
Tiny bit different than yours.
It's so beautiful. And when you sent me the picture, it's knit in this like quite silvery, rusticy, like one would think that I would be losing my mind over it, and I did. But actually seeing this version, sort of like a traditional cable pattern in this really contemporary, like poppy color, I'm like, I mean, it was beautiful in the picture, but I never would have said I have to knit that. Now I'm looking at this being like, who am I even? Because I feel like I need to knit it. And also just, I'm a very like tactile, sensory person. I just want to pet everything, and this is really satisfying.
It's so soft. Well, silky, which sounds ridiculous since it's all silk. Of course it's silky, but it feels.
But it's a very different iteration of silk than when I've pet silk before. Like it's
the merino, the superwash. And I think it has to be superwash too. Like it has to be kind of stretchy, because with superwash, when they take off the scales of the, like that's what makes it so it doesn't felt. And you can put it in the wash, even though I never would. But it makes it kind of pulls itself, and so sometimes when you knit with a superwash, you might end up with a sweater that's a little longer than you're thinking. But in this case, that's what I want. So it just feels feels really great. I'm so excited, and it's a delight to knit with. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And I will say, it's also nice that this can't be broken. Like, it will not split. Actually, in fact, this one, because it's half silk, with my linen, let's look at what I'm still wearing under here, linen and silk, I made the mistake, because I work with, Nutiden, I just pull when I'm done. Other ones, you just, when you want to like finish something once you've bound off. This one, I go to do that, and I basically almost cut through my fingers, because the linen and silk are like, yeah, what? No, I'm not gonna break on you.
Yeah.
So hard. But anyway, I talked much longer about that than I thought I would.
I mean, it's so beautiful.
I just feel every time I pulled it up, I'm like, look how bright it is.
Oh, it's so good.
Beautiful.
I mean, so we're gonna go on a tangent because this is how we operate. But for me, what I love most about podcasts, what I love most about knitting community is understanding what is in your knit that can't be seen. Like, of course, I love love seeing what people are knitting, and this the way that sort of color and silhouette can really change something, and to watch that interface with a person and their personality and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really like here to basically see through the sharing about our knits, like what's in it, like other than fiber and color and silhouette, like what's in it. And so, that there's a lot in it.
There's a story in this knit.
Right.
Every round I do, I'm thinking about a lot of things.
Yeah. And I think that's part of if we went back and looked at just like historically the role of art and craft.
Yeah.
I think that remembrance of place and time, and the interactivity of like your hands with something that came from nature or something that means something to you, like I think that's why craft is still alive and art is still alive. One of the many, many reasons why craft and art is still alive. So I am here for very long stories, and we hope that you're in this sort of like listening and contemplation, maybe thinking about the stories that are in your knits too.
Beautiful, yes. I love that.
Yeah.
So why don't you introduce, so I think our other one, we just have one more whip to talk about, and we're both knitting the same thing. So why don't you start?
Should I try and put it on?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I put yours on.
You did put it on. Okay.
Yay.
So this is a test knit. Didn't used to do test knits until Carmen came into my life and was testing anything and everything. So this is a partially completed color work yoke sweater, which has not been blocked yet, so it will look.
Oh, it's beautiful already. Look at that combo.
So this is by Liv Ulven of Woodlands Knits. This is the Barrenlands sweater, which is it's a top-down round yoke colorwork sweater. I have knit this in Nutiden, double-stranded on US
7s? That's
eights,
what mine was.
US 8s. So colorways, when this pattern gets published, all of this information will be on Ravelry, but I haven't created a project page for it yet. But the colorways are these, and
Beautiful.
Puppelin, Kvarts, and then some of these in-betweens come from
what used to be called Lucky Charms, which were these sort of limited edition, they are kind of limited edition. They're basically little mini plates. I don't actually have one with me, but little mini plates of Nutiden that have multiple colors in them. So in an effort to be sustainable in their production, when the wool is made, when the wool is made in the machine, oh no.
You're doing a good job.
Okay. When there's a switch between the different colors, there is a Lucky Charm is sort of the in-between portion in which there is more than one color in the plate.
Beautiful.
And they come in like teeny tiny little packets. And so I knit this using a combination of kind of Puppelin, this is not Puppelin, and playing with the Lucky Charms to try and apparently fading is like something that I'm into this year. And so it's a beautiful, for me, I love this pattern so much. What I'll say about it in terms of its construction is the increases are unlike other round yoke color work sweaters that I have previously knit, of which I love this silhouette. So the increases are different. I'm loving the fit, which I think is a result of the increases. And also, although this is a low contrast version, that maybe you don't get to see the pattern as clearly as you'll be able to see in Carmen's. It's a color work sweater that, again, I think is really friendly for people who are wanting to explore color work for the first time, because again, it's meditative. It's you're only carrying one color at a time, and so you're not having to manage all these different
colors.
Yes, sorry. There's a main contrast and a main color and a contrast color, so you're only sort of your yarn management is just 2 balls, and you're not having to worry about floats just because of the pattern. And
the original pattern is actually all one color.
Yes.
So we just we
went a little off book. Yeah. Thanks, Liv.
Liv's awesome. She's so open to all things, but it's gorgeous. I will say, and I love that you're talking about the fit, because so Liv and I were talking before. So I had just finished my this test, and because that was it's just been released not very long ago, and we were talking about kind of things coming up, and I think she was working on something. I was like, oh, that's really beautiful, and she's like, oh, well, the test will be out in a few weeks or something, and I was like, oh, but it's a round yoke. And so, like the drop shoulder, I was like, I don't look good in round yokes. Like, a lot of times they would puff up on me a bit, again, because of the larger, what I call larger shoulders or broader shoulders. They would puff up a bit, and I would also end up often getting too much stuff underneath my arms for what I like. And she was laughing, and she was, well, not laughing, she goes, that's interesting because she has a similar body, I think, to mine. Actually, she might even have broader shoulders, and she said she doesn't like round yokes very much either because of this. So this is an experiment of trying to figure out a way to do a round yoke for somebody who has maybe larger shoulders. Because for people who have, let's say, some people have very slanty shoulders or smaller, for you, a round yoke looks beautiful. It just sits so lovely on you. Whereas for me, it kind of goes out, and then it kind of rides up and everything. So I won't say what she did that was different, but it was different from the normal. And as she was explaining it, there was a few things actually that were different. And I was like, this sounds actually doable. I think this might be something that would work for me. And so I'm like, can I get started right away? So she actually bumped up the test because I have another test I'm about to start. And I was like, I've got this period of time, I could just get it done. So that was sort of the history of that. And I think she really succeeded. So I'll just show you my one.
Just how many knits have you amassed in the time?
Seriously, I know. I like to knit if it hasn't been clear. Okay, so here is my one. Obviously gonna be a little bit different from Jackie's, but not even they all, it still has a neutral, I think, feel to it to me.
It does. We also have a lot of similar colors.
Yeah.
I used Puppelin
and
Kvarts, and as you held this up, I was like, oh, this was color inception.
Yeah.
I did not realize that this yoke is this sweater.
Oh my God, you're right. Oh, no wonder I extra love it. It's beautiful. Yes. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, what's really funny about my color selection is because I was still in England, I only had the Nutiden that I brought. So, and I wanted to do it in different colors. I just kind of wanted to see what would happen. So this is almost all the colors I brought with me. And I love the way it turned out. I don't know if this is really coming up, but this is, okay, so this is Infinitiv as the main color, this is washing out a little bit, but it's quite a bright, what'd you call it, a magenta maybe? What's got magenta, well, no, I don't know what it's got plumminess. There's some magenta parts.
Plum.
Yeah, maybe plum might be what I'd say.
Plum is a good word.
Yeah. And then Flisselin, which is that white with the gray in it. Puppelin, which is that aqua and the one that I had there. Kvarts, which is, yeah, that one. This pinky one. Brunta, which is a brown, beautiful one. Back to Kvarts. And then I put Lola in there too, which is the purple here. And I was like, well, we'll see how it all works out because these are the colors I've got and I just want to use them all. And I really like how it worked. And I do think I'm not as far as Jackie because I did get a little distracted by my po. But I think this fits so much better for me than other round jokes have. This is really funny. So when I first did it, because I didn't have extra waist yarn, I just put them on actual, like, you know, the Chagu cables,
yeah,
and just put the ends on. But it actually makes it stand out in this almost like Balmain kind of like way on both sides. And I was like, my husband was like, I wonder, can you keep it like that? You can look all space agey. I'm like, oh, I know. It's
it
nice.
does kind of look cool.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I'm just really happy with it. It's not light enough here for you to fully see, and I'll do better pictures, but very, very happy. And the one thing I say, I'm really excited by this prospect because what I love the most about a round yoke is the necklacey look that comes from it. It feels like just a bunch of necklaces, especially if you do it all in different colors. And I love that look. And it's not something a raglan can give you because a raglan will have a line that goes down here. So this looks like, I think Liv has found a way. And in the way she's done it, I actually think I could use that moving forward with even like other patterns that might not have done that way. I might be able to kind of convert it to the system that she's using, which is very exciting because that opens up even more.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing about knitting things that are sort of like outside of your like comfort zone or outside of your comfortable places, the opportunity to encounter designers or patterns that really fit your body and how you feel comfortable. And so I love the idea that, because basically you found a set of increases that works for you.
Yes.
And
at
a particular gauge.
And a few extra pieces of a few extra special parts.
Oh, see, I was not aware of that, and yet,
even though you knit it,
even though I knit it, right?
Like there are things that are different.
Yeah, there are things that are different. As somebody who
and they're what I need.
Yeah, that you can now sort of plug and play.
Yeah.
If there are other color work yoke things, you can get a little bit creative.
Yeah.
But I did want to mention that.
Oh yes, for sure.
That
good idea.
The reason that it's multicolored is because everything Carmen knits, I'm just like, oh my god. So when the test came out, again, thank you, Liv.
That is the
beautiful.
That's the sample. And
when Carmen cast it on and did a bunch of different colors, it was that necklace motif that I was like, you know, it's beautiful in the one color, but I really wanted to kind of explore that. And as I was sort of deciding on, you know, color placement and those kinds of things, which, you know, is new to me, I was actually thinking about where do I want those two bold lines to be. And that's sort of where I landed. I'm actually quite happy with how that placement sort of landed.
You know what I love about this is that I chose two different lines. So the ones that I'm showing are the top, I'm doing the top one and the bottom one. And yours are the second from there, which mine are actually, it is, I mean, in person, you're right. We did Puppelin in the same place. Yeah, which I do like that, but I think because I made them brighter, the ones that are standing out are almost opposite to yours.
Yeah.
So there you get this lovely look of the two options. You're welcome.
I also, you know what, as I look at this, it's interesting to kind of see how the neckline sits differently on you and I, even though same gauge, same size, same pattern. Just recognizing, you know, as I think we're gonna switch into talking about the KAL a little bit now before we wrap up, is thinking about where you want to place a motif or where you want to highlight, like what's the part of the knit in your finished object that you really want to highlight. Because when I look at your placement, and in part it's because we have different shaped bodies, I find that yours just, it has a different like, what angle or something like that? It has a different scoop.
Yeah.
And that as a general rule, I feel like a lot of the stuff that you knit, you like it to kind of sit higher and closer.
Definitely.
Right? Whereas I tend to like the shape of sort of like wider and looser and drapier, and somehow we have arrived there.
I know. And what's really interesting is that we wear the same size. So we we knit the same size, but it looks different on us with these different things that we have. Yeah. It reminds me of the Caddy Jacks podcast because, Jackie, funny enough, I'm the Jackie in that case. You should be the Jackie, but Jackie likes things a little bit higher and Caitlin likes them a little more open. Yeah.
And it, you know, I'm just having this like realization now that it's, that I'm like, do I like stuff that's like lower and drapier and looser because intrinsically I like that style? Or is it because that style is like the shape that my body makes naturally?
Right. It's true.
Right?
It's true. And if I think about like how you wear knits too, and just your kind of aura about you, you're this calm, you know, like the yoga, you know, meditation, sitting there with her beautiful shawl in the airy Costa Rican jungle is you, right? And I don't see that being a like great up, you know, to the top kind of personality. Not that I'm like super, well, I'm obviously not super.
If we're talking about like on the contrast of sort of like loose and less loose, I don't think that you are on this side of the spectrum.
But I'm like for a little more frenetic, or maybe I contain myself. Keep it in, Carmen. You need a bit of a collar.
Started with knitting, ended I don't know
with
where.
Psychoanalysis. There we go.
This is what happens when you're a
two
therapist.
therapists sitting around talking about why did we knit it this way? What makes me choose this? Do I like it, or is it my body that chooses it?
Yeah. So
it's a combo. That's always the answer.
Tuning in for the wool and the psychoanalysis. Okay.
Yeah. I think, so we've got loads of dream knitting, we've got loads of plans and all of that, but I think that we wanted to just kind of show you some knitting that we've already done, and then a little bit of our, obviously the whips, which are, yours is almost done.
It's almost done.
Yeah.
Just the ribbing. You want to do my ribbing, or am I going to have to do it by myself?
You know the answer to that. I was going to say, damn, I already finished my ones down there. I would have given it to you. I really didn't want to do it.
You know what I would love to do? I would love to I would do all of your ribbing if you would set in sleeves for me.
Oh, I could do that. I do a good job on that.
I am like,
really
I
weird.
have a beautiful whip that has just been languishing because I've never set in sleeves before.
Grab the things like, I'm
like really afraid of doing it, so.
Okay.
That's a trade.
There we go.
On camera.
It's been said. It's been said. I feel like I'm getting the better deal. Like, you're talking like ribbing all the way around. I mean, I'm just picking up a few stitches around some arms. Like, I feel like...
No. I have arms. It's a sleeve cap.
Yeah, the sleeve. Oh, you need to put it. Oh, the other direction. Well, only ever done set in sleeves from the top down.
Well, it's for a knit that it's for a thing that you've knit that I then knit because you knit it, and
So I've already done it.
Yeah.
I'll do this for you.
Okay. Deal.
And I like doing that, and I like doing a sleeve cap. I love the short rows. It goes like it's like doing a heel turn in a sock. It's so enjoyable. It just like comes together, and you're like, how? You just follow the pattern. You don't know what's going on, and then this beautiful shape.
I do think that this quintessentially encapsulates our personality and our approach in life. She's like, a heel turn, a sleeve cap, and I'm like, ribbing, and stockinette.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, so.
Okay, the KAL. So
the
for
inspired
anybody
by
not
Ellen
interested in the KAL, I think we're, should we just talk about, before we start that, because I'm thinking
Okay.
anybody not interested in the KAL might be like, okay, I'm kind of done here, and I don't want them to miss out on any amazingness. There may be amazingness after, because we have no idea what we're gonna do. So there's no plan. So there might be amazingness. So you should stick around. But just in case you didn't, we wanted to talk about the giveaway. So the last, it was the last
Episode 0.75.
We talked about we're going to be giving away from our stash an accessories kind of sized. I mean, who knows? It's going to be what we give away. It might be more than that, I think. Probably, but we'll see. We'll see whatever it is. And we're going to choose 2 people from the comments. And now we were like, should we do that before this episode? But first of all, we didn't get that together. So
Carmen got home like last night,
Yesterday.
and I was like, what time can I show up at your house so that we can podcast and also pet all the woolly things that we haven't been able to do in 6 weeks.
Exactly.
Long weeks.
So we haven't chosen the winners yet, but what we are doing is that we're going to close the giveaway comment thread, and we're going to pick 2, and then in our next episode we will talk about who it is, and we'll probably, are we going to contact them before that?
So expect to be contacted via YouTube if you're the winner, and then there's a part of me that wants to show. Okay, so
I want to show what we're going to give them.
So what we did in the giveaway was we asked people to sort of in the comments mention, you know, what kind of accessory do you maybe feel like making, and also like what do you love and what are you wanting to call into your life via your knitting. And so the plan is for us to sit down, choose 2 people, and then we're gonna try and I'm calling this yarn oracle, pull from our stashes a little combination of Nutiden for that maybe to us embodies those qualities or colors or things that people want to call into life. So there's a part of me that really wants to share that process with all of you, but then there's also a part of me that's like, if we share it on the podcast, then if they haven't received the package, then it's going to be a spoiler. So
that's true, and I hadn't thought of that, but I did think about how we might want to ship it out before our next podcast.
Yeah.
Although our next podcast is really soon because we're starting the KAL, but anyway.
anyhow,
Still didn't want to wait. I was like, we could film now this will require either editing it into our next podcast, which I don't think we could do. So I think it's going to be another decimal point episode.
yeah, it might be a decimal point episode, or maybe what we'll do is we'll wait for people to receive it before we sort of share, even if it's like a little picture of the color
that's also
combos and
an
that kind of
option.
thing. Yeah. But part of the reason we wanted to talk about it, we want to bring it up, is because I have been so deeply inspired by that comment thread.
Me
Like
too.
if you feel like you're in a knitting
my
slump,
God.
or you just want to be inspired about the depth that this craft can offer us, like go back to episode 0.75 and just read, and I guarantee that you will be moved or inspired in some kind of way. And so I feel so rich in being able to do that, and we're really excited about this game that we're calling Yarn Oracle.
Yes. And just to be clear, we are choosing randomly. Like we're
Yes.
going to use one of those random
Yeah.
things that we've heard about. We've not researched it yet.
No.
Gotta be okay to do. We're gonna do that. We're not. So it's not like we're picking like our best comments.
we're
and things,
gonna
which we
just-
wouldn't be able to because
Impossible.
it's impossible. Like these comments are incredible. I sit there and we haven't been able to respond to everyone. There's still a few more, but I just, like it just brings me so much joy to find out about everybody and how they're experiencing the podcast and just their knitting process and what it brings to them.
What they're wanting to call in, and sort of people who have entered the giveaway not for themselves but for people that they
Yes.
love, and I just am like,
I know.
it's so beautiful.
It's amazing.
So more coming soon with that, which reminds me, I do have a notebook in front of me, and I'm realizing that we never talk about what we plan. So hopefully this is an invitation for any of you who like are not organized, linear, like planned out people, to kind of say like embrace the chaos.
Yes.
'Cause
Life
that's what we're
still
doing.
keeps going.
Going.
Still okay.
And if you like that organization, then I also wish you well.
And we love that you
We
exist
love
in
that
this
you
world,
exist in
because
this
if it was just us, then no. No buses would arrive on time, or I mean, maybe that doesn't happen anyway.
But so speaking about Nutiden and sharing Nutiden stash, one of the people that we became connected to through this podcast is Lily. Hi, Lily. From the Untangled Knitting
Awesome.
Podcast. And she commented on our giveaway thread saying, can I donate 500 grams of Nutiden yarn to you so that you can give it away to somebody who, because that's a sweater's quantity, somebody who might want to join the knit along or just experience Nutiden after you guys have waxed on about it for 3+ hours.
Amazing.
And so we sort of offered that back to Lily and sort of said, why don't you give it away? And so Lily is now running a giveaway on her channel, which we'll link below, the Untangled Knitting Podcast.
Which is a great podcast, by the way. It's so fun. She's so great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we love you, Lily.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so glad that this venue sort of connected us. But she's giving away 500 grams of Nutiden from her stash in a color called Tall Bark, which if you let me start talking about Tall Bark, we'll be here for half an hour. But it's just a beautiful thing, and we're really quite moved by the generosity. And I'm actually in this place now with Nutiden and knitting and yarn that I feel like being able to witness people encountering it feels just as good as knitting with it. And being able to gift parts of my stash so that maybe people have a little story in their knits as they knit with it, like that just feels better. It just makes me feel just as good, if not better, than when I get to encounter beautiful materials and engage in the creative craft myself. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm looking at the list. Okay. So the Inspired by Ellen knit along. It begins on September 1st. And it runs 5 months until January 31st. As we mentioned before, we're co-hosting the KAL with Loretta and Natalia from the Knit My Way Home podcast. And so we've shown you the motif, which is available as a free pattern, which we'll link below. There's actually a whole free sweater pattern using this motif, which is being provided by Flisselin. And the source of this motif, when we encountered it, was a book by Vibeke Lund, which we'll also link below. But essentially, whatever you want, including the motif, sometime in the next 5 months.
Before, just so we don't forget, do you want to talk about April knits? Since you're just
Yes.
talking about?
Okay. So
I should have checked your thing. Maybe you already had that.
no, I didn't.
Okay, good.
So there are a number of wonderful human. So okay.
Anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
No,
your
it's okay.
space.
Where was I? Okay. So knit anything you want in whatever wool you want sometime in the next 5 months. And if you'd like to participate with us, we'd love for you to use the hashtag Inspired by Ellen, KAL. The spelling and all of that will be down in the description box. And if you are wondering about it, you can hop on to social media and look up that hashtag, because there are a number of people who have already begun, right? Who've already begun to expand our horizons in terms of how it is that we can use the motif. And so the one person that we want to mention is Annalie of Miss Evil Knits, who we mentioned on the previous podcast. We'll include all of her information down below. But for those of you who are interested in knitting a sweater, a full colorwork sweater using this motif, I'm just gonna pull up the original sweater if I can. Actually, I'll do that later.
I was gonna say maybe I can find.
Yeah, if you want to do
no,
that.
that's
would
my
be
phone.
amazing.
Okay.
The original setter, it in a top-down way.
Sorry, I was struggling.
We are a constant work in progress. Like, I think we just went down to episode 0.85. Like, we just got to promoted.
I don't think we really deserve a 1 yet. Oh, goodness.
But
Is it in her record? Sorry.
I don't know. No, it's if you go to Honor Oak Air. Right, because I don't think that she's released it yet. So the original inspiration for this knit along was a full color work sweater using this motif. And Carmen and the book from whence it came, it's okay, from whence it came, knit it bottom up. And, you know, I am a top-down aficionado, and I think that there are a lot of people who are top-down aficionados, and Annalie is one of those people. And so she has actually created a recipe for how you can knit the sweater as a full color work motif sweater from top down, and that's going to be published on her blog a few days before our KAL starts on September 1st. So
I think it was the 26th of August, did she say?
I don't know. We'll
Something
include
like
it in
that.
the description box.
You can follow her on Instagram too.
Yeah, so we're just blown away. And what I was thinking we would do in our following podcasts as this along is going along is to just sort of share these little synchronistic sort of creative moments that have popped up for people, because that's the whole intention with this.
Yeah.
Is like that we create community and that people get to play and that there's lots of choice and freedom to knit how you want to. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we're hoping to facilitate that in a second. So the hashtag inspired by Ellen KAL will take you to wonderful folks who have started a project, who have done little sketches of sweaters and where they're gonna place the motif, just like
I know.
people are amazing. You guys are amazing. So you can feel free to check that out, and as you engage in the process, if you want to along with us to continue to use that hashtag. And when it comes to prizes and all that kind of stuff, we've got 5 months to figure it out, and we'll let you know how that's gonna work once we sort of sort that out. Okay, so the last thing that we wanted to talk about in terms of the knit along, in terms of logistics, and then I actually want to share my progress, so this is going out of order, but what we wanted to talk about as part of the knit along is that we're gonna be organizing some knit nights. So we're gonna be organizing, we are organizing, have organized.
Yes. We have done this.
We have done
spent
this.
hours.
Yes.
doing it. Took hours to figure out the days.
To host some knit nights. So these are going to be happening virtually. We're going to be using the platform Zoom to basically give you guys the opportunity, honestly, to share in the really rich conversation that we have been receiving ever since the podcast sort of happened. And I often think to myself, I wish that there were more people in this conversation with us.
Yes.
And so the intention of the knit nights is to basically give us the opportunity to be in real-time conversation with you, but actually mostly for those of you who are participating with us and part of this lovely community that we have started to engage with, an opportunity to engage with each other. There was also we've also sort of been receiving questions about like, hey, what do you think about like, how do we do this? And I want to do this, and what are your thoughts? And the fact of the matter is that Carmen and I love knitting, but have basically no experience other than our own experience. And as we've mentioned some things on the podcast, we're like, we want to do this, but we don't know how. People have like come out of the woodwork in the comments or sent us DMs and said, this is exactly how you're going to do it. And I was like, okay, well, we need to share the hive mind. And so the idea is that these knit nights are going to be an opportunity for you to join in on Zoom if you would like to knit together, and also an opportunity where, you know, this idea we came up with called the hive mind. We didn't come up with it, we just talked about it, but that people can maybe come in and sort of share what's going on with their knitting, and if there are questions that inevitably maybe somebody else in that knit circle might be able to point you to a resource or give you an idea, or
just encouragement
and support. So that brings us to the logistical part of that. So the first date for sort of our community knit together is Cast On Day, which is September 1st. And so Loretta has, who lives in the Yukon, has amazingly volunteered her time at 5 a.m. in the morning. Which is her time, which is GMT -8. We're gonna put all this in the description box. She's gonna hop onto Instagram Live and give you an opportunity to kind of interact with each other and her on Cast On Day. And then Carmen and I are gonna be hosting a Zoom at 7 p.m. our time, which is Eastern Standard.
Wait a second. Aren't we doing the YouTube live?
I don't think so.
Oh, because I looked into that.
Oh, okay.
That's my thing.
To be continued.
Rewind back to our
0.78.
0.7. Yeah, we're not even at 0.8.
So,
was a little.
We're gonna have opportunities for you guys to kind of interact and for us to share what's going on our needles with regards to the knit along. And then once a month after that, we have partnered or are being supported by Making Magazine to have monthly knit nights. And so how this is going to work is that we'll have the dates and the times of the virtual knit nights, which are sort of variable on the day and the time of day, about every 3 to 4 weeks. And we've sort of planned this out until the end of November, and we're hopeful that we're going to continue if this is something that people want to show up at and it just doesn't end up being Carmen and I.
Even if
Loretta,
even if it was, still do that. But we would love to have some more people.
But Making has been so lovely in that they're going to help support us in the organization, because Carmen and I are, if you haven't figured it out, are evidently very new to this and wanted a way that we could sort of centralize the organization. So I want to talk a little bit about Making Magazine and the app. So Making Magazine is an incredible publication. I'll just talk about sort of my personal encounter with it, but I came to them through their app, which you can access through, if you have an Android phone, the whatever store you go into,
Google Play,
whatever, wherever you get your apps, if you're on an Android phone, and then the app store if you're on iOS, you'd look up Making. And it's an app that they designed that is similar to Instagram in its design to basically give people the opportunity to make a profile and to post photos and writing and questions and polls and all kinds of sort of ways that you can come to interact with other makers. And so one of the questions that Carmen has been asking me and people have been asking me is sort of, are you going to create an Instagram, or like we can't find your knitting content on Instagram? And I really sat with the question of whether or not I was going to create another Instagram account, and Making sort of popped up into my awareness through Layla. Hi Layla, if you're watching. Because the app is really made by makers for makers, with the intention of creating a community for makers that's all around the making process. So Instagram has connected me to many, many folks, but my experience of at least my social media account is like Instagram seems incredibly wide and vast, and people and posts seem to get like lost in the melee of my many, many interests that I nurture through Instagram, like inclusive of knitting, but also including a whole bunch of other things. And so what I decided that I would do is to move all of my knitting content over to the Making app. So I like to write about the stories behind my knits. I like to reflect on the knitting process, as you know, you've gotten a taste of on this podcast. I'm doing that and writing over on Making app, because for me, what the app has given me is a place where it feels like I'm sharing my creative process with other people who are also in their own creative process. And so on the app really elevates and inspires through it being about all kinds of crafting. So it's not just knitting, it's like anything that you can make. If you are in a creative process, it's a place where you can engage with other makers and just be inspired by them. And I know for me, as somebody who really loves knitting, I've really been expanded even in my knitting by observing people's like embroidery and their like hand dye and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it also lets me be intentional about sort of consuming creative content, in the sense that I'm like, oh, I'm looking for inspiration, or I really want to like go on a deep dive in terms of my own creativity. I can go to one place and know that all I'm gonna get there is that, and it's the intention and the energy behind what they're doing in the app is really wonderful. So I invite you to come there if you wish. You don't have to, but what they're helping us with is organization of these virtual knit nights. In that if you were to go on the app and make an account, which is as simple as making an account on Instagram, you can look up Inspired by KAL in their class library. And what that will do is give you the opportunity to sign up for the knit night. And if you sign up for the knit night, which is free, the app is free, and signing up for a knit night is for free, what you'll receive through the generosity of Making Magazine and their amazing team is like, you'll get an email with a Zoom link and like information on how to use Zoom and all that kind of stuff that I think Carmen and I just felt like we weren't going to be able to do in an organized, reliable fashion. They have offered us that through the technology that and the resources that they have available. So if that's something that you'd like to participate in, we're just asking people to go through the Making app so that we make sure that nobody gets lost, or that like we forget to send out the Zoom meeting, or like something goes awry with technology, because there's nothing worse than thinking that you are going to be able to participate in something and then in the technology thing to be sitting there and something's not working, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So that also gives us an opportunity to look at how many people are interested in knitting together with us, and being able to sort of plan some of the things that we can do on the knit night, and how that's going to run on the basis of how many people are wanting to join. So more information on that will be below. It's not yet live on the Making app, but it will be live for our September 1st.
Beautiful. That was lovely. Very well said.
Thank
I'm so
you.
glad that you did that.
So what I wanted to offer today, just in terms of thinking about if you are wanting to participate in the KAL by knitting a sweater, is something that I discovered basically because I got a bunch of questions from you guys, and I was like, I don't know what the answer is. And I said, I don't know what the answer is, but then it was like in my mind, and I was like, oh my God, I need to figure out what the answer is.
Love it.
But the idea of, you know, how do you know that something's going to fit you well?
That's
right? And so if you're going to invest a significant amount of sort of time and intentionality and effort into doing a full color work piece, for me, what was important was the feeling that when I got to the end of it, there's a good likelihood that it was going to fit me well enough that I wouldn't be looking at this sweater feeling really sad about the fact that it doesn't fit. And so so there are two things that I want to talk about. One is I want to talk about sort of construction, which I think we've actually already done, in terms of thinking about going into your closet of, you know, not only stuff that you've knitted that you love, that you feel like you put it on and you're just like, yes, I love this, right? I love the fit of this. I love how it sits on me, etc. Is to look at that, but also be willing to go into your closet and look at sort of like ready to wear, like store-bought sweaters. Because as you basically start with a base of what it is that you know you love, that will hopefully guide you towards how it is that you might decide to construct a sweater or knit a sweater for the knit along. So the measurements that are that I think many sweater knitters or garment knitters think about, or I think about, is sort of bust size, right? That's like your first measurement, or that's the measurement that I often go to when I'm trying to decide, you know, what size am I gonna wear of a sweater. And so, you know, finding the bust size, the actual measurement of your sweater that you love, and letting that sort of be a goal for however you knit the sweater. Right? But this is the thing that I discovered that really makes the hugest difference for me in terms of fit. It's this thing called yoke depth, which we've sort of been dancing around this whole episode. The idea of like, what's the distance between splitting for sleeves and the top of your garment. Whether it's a round yoke, whether it's a raglan, whether it's a drop shoulder, I feel like the sweaters that I love the most, what they share is a particular yoke depth. So one of the things that we talked about in terms of, Carmen was talking about in terms of knitting a, for example, raglan and then adding the motif as like almost like a color block kind of style. If you're nervous about fit, I'd invite you to consider sort of a color blocking thing in which you take a pattern or a sweater that you know you love, you know, use that pattern or use that sort of like yoke as a base, and then add the motif later, or, you know, you might figure out with the numbers or the measurements that you have how you might do the whole pattern, which I do intend on doing. However, after Carmen started and everybody started, and Carolyn, who's the maker of Nutiden yarn, started,
She made two.
She's almost finished 2 sweaters. I knit that sock and I was happy for a little while, and then I was like, hey, I need to cast on.
Yes.
So I did.
Yay!
And what I cast on is exactly that process of me saying, what silhouette do I love? And what neckline do I love? And what yoke depth I love? And so I love drapey. I love wide, similar to sort of the bright sweater. So this is the beginning of, I mean, I could put it on. It's gonna look ridiculous, but
won't it? Looks like a shrug of some sort.
Yeah.
Cool shrug.
This is my
Look at this.
KAL.
Oh my God, Jackie. Oh, look at this.
So I'm really happy
Oh, it's beautiful.
about the fit of the top.
It is. What? Now I'm like, what construction is this?
Okay, so this is based on
Glad you asked, Carmen.
This is
amazing.
based on a sweater by Agio Knits called the KAL sweater, which I was introduced to through the magic of Instagram and the Cadjacks community. Gazelle and Cheryl, hi. They knit this original, the sweater.
It's gorgeous.
And it was color blocked like this. There was like a motif here, and there will be a motif here. And when it was in my queue, I loved it so much.
Yes, now I remember this sweater.
And I thought, I mean, the pattern is beautiful. The motif in the original pattern is beautiful, but it reminded me of this. Like, I did not realize until I saw this.
Right.
That I was like,
oh my gosh.
and
it's amazing. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. I want it. Of course I want it.
And you know why you want it? Is because this is your color combo.
Oh.
This is Kvarts
That's right.
and Lola.
The one. It is perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh, it is perfect. It's gorgeous.
And so, the other thing that I liked about this design is it gave me the opportunity to allow Kvarts to shine, because it's such a beautiful neutral. I mean, I'll come up and show you. It's such a beautiful neutral, and I do not have a sweater's quantity of it. I didn't realize how much I would love it, and so I bought 2 plates, and I thought to myself, I saw that color combo. I need to have it. I just want to keep looking at it. And I was like, okay, so how am I going to make this work though? Because I only have 2 plates, and Carmen, you've generously allowed me to have access to your stash. But I also thought to myself, there's got to be some people out there who, you know, maybe have 1 or 2 plates,
Definitely.
right? And
this
so
happens.
this is one way, maybe, that you don't have to get 500 or 600 grams of Nutiden yarn, 300 and 300 or 250 and 250 or whatever the case is, and to get to play with color.
Oh my God. It's
So the other thing that I wanted to show, which I wasn't sure if it was going to work out, but
I think has,
is
is that I am
so this part is knit with 2 strands. I'm holding 2 strands of Lola, which is the purple, and then 1 strand of Kvarts, because I'm playing yarn chicken.
Okay. I was wondering actually when you were saying, I'm like, well, how are you though bringing it through this? But it's really working
and I
out.
think that it looks okay.
It looks great.
It
It does.
And here's the other thing that was just like a happy accident. We've talked about the fact that Nutiden held double-stranded in color work creates like a 4-layer fabric that's really warm. And I kind of wanted a sweater that had a bit more of a contemporary shape than the beautiful one that you're knitting and that is sort of the original knit. But I wanted something that was contemporary. I also wanted something that I could just like wear in everyday life and not as an outer layer. So this is just 1 layer, and then the sleeves is a little bit thicker but not as thick. And so I can see myself wearing this like in regular life.
I love this whole silhouette. I love everything and just want to drop everything and cast it on.
Which you can.
Well, we got a little bit more stuff to do. And another test
And
that
another
started
test knit.
yesterday.
But yeah, so I hope that offers you a little bit of just inspiration and sort of the idea of saying, work with a pattern that's available online, work with a pattern in the source book. Maybe work with a pattern that you already know and love and just sort of like sub out. And also as you engage in this and along with us, maybe, can you really put at the center of it, like, what do you love?
Right.
What do you love? Because I think it's really easy sometimes to look at somebody else's finished object and look at somebody else's process and forget what you love, because you love what they're doing so much.
Yes.
So that's really why we made the knit along the way that we made the knit along, to kind of say like there's no rules, and also maybe try recipe knitting, which is what I'm calling like this like sub out sort of thing, because at least for me, as I embraced the unknown and started to really personalize my knits in that way, they've become even more powerful talismans than before I started to say like, this is what I want and this is what I love and this is how I'm gonna allow my knitting to serve me.
That was another beautifully said. That was amazing. Wow, Jackie, I just want to hug you. That's gorgeous.
So we hope that you will come along, and whether that means coming along at the knit nights or on Instagram or in the Ravelry thread that we're going to be creating, or if that's watching this podcast or even just thinking about what do I love and how can I knit what I love. We are so happy to have you, and we're so excited for the next 5 months to be able to be inspired by Ellen and also by each and every one of you. So I think that's everything that is a must on the list for today.
Yes.
Oh, look, we made it under 3 hours, which is what we actually thought might happen.
We look at our restraint.
I also adore that we're sitting here on our knitting podcast with like half arms and half bodies. I'm like, this is our brand. This is right here.
You know, somebody, as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, maybe she should just stop there too. Like, isn't that such a cool little, like,
I did think about it.
It's really, like, if you were just to bind off there, like, or a little, like an I-cord binder or something, would be kind of, anyway, gorgeous, but yes.
If somebody wants to do it, do it.
Yes, oh my God.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Maybe just because we did mention it and then didn't talk about it, and because we haven't got it totally figured, obviously, yet, but on September 1st, So we're gonna have a knit night that we're doing as a Zoom. Oh yeah, so that's the question, is whether we're doing only that, or what may happen is a YouTube live that day earlier. And we're gonna put all that information in the show notes, and also maybe, yeah.
We'll post it on social
and
like,
on Instagram.
once it's all set up. We'll
Ravelry.
we'll do it. So
Might be around 5 o'clock Eastern, EST.
So our where you can find us in terms of Ravelry and making, if you'd like to join me on the app and Ravelry, all of that kind of stuff, we're going to include below, so long as we make it to the character count, because YouTube doesn't limit the amount of information that we can include. But we're going to sort that out. We're still half in process. But thank you for joining in. Thank you for sharing your time with us, and we can't wait to see you next time with more knits and more psychoanalysis and works in progress.
And because we are works in progress, so you're definitely going to get 2 each time.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.